Namaskar. Welcome to this session. So we are trying to understand the Vyutthana Chitta, Nirodha Chitta, Vyutthana Sanskars, Nirodha Sanskars, Vyutthana state and Nirodha state. This is all with respect to Chitta. And therein we saw that when Vyutthana Sanskars are in plethora, more often we have Vyutthita Chitta and Vyutthana Avastha. When the Nirodha Sanskars are rich and sumptuous, then the Nirodha vritti, Nirodha Avastha, Nirodha Sanskars have major occupancy on the consciousness. So with Vyutthana Sanskars, we tabulated and therein we saw that with Vyutthana Sanskars, the Chitta is more often ashanta, that is in turmoil. It is kshubdha, it is in agitations. It is wandering. It is restless. It is fluttering. So also it is vexed and tormented. It is with lots of upheavals and spike in the vrittis. It is also monkey-like. The Chitta becomes monkey-like with Vyutthana Sanskars in a great volume in the Chitta. So also the Chitta bhumi will be more often Kshipta, Vikshipta, Mudha, as described by Vyasa in the first chapter, Pancha bhumis. The first three bhumis means Vyutthana Sanskars are in plethora. Then the Shadripus play havoc. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Madamatsariyam, they play havoc. They have preponderance. Such Chitta is more prone to be worldly, mundane, and it's also consumeristic Chitta, bhogavadi, jadavadi, vaishayika. So it goes after sensory objects. It is also materialistic Chitta and it is also consumeristic Chitta. So also the demonic tendencies are rampant. And Adharma, ajnana, Vairagya and Aishwaryam will be having preponderance in such Chitta which has Vyutthana Sanskars. And then in Nirodha Sanskars case, the Chitta is Shanta, Kshanta, Saumya, Prasanna. The Chitta is tranquil, in a tranquil state. The Chitta is quiet, serene, sublime, sedate, pensive, reflective, tender, unagitated, and not having spikes. It is steady, it is not rambling, it is not fluttering, it is not fluttering and wandering. So such Chitta is said to be sadhu vritti, saintly mind. So it also is prapanchatita, it is transmundane, transworldly, it is ethereal, it is sublime, what we call as sattvic chitta, it is sattvic, sattvic vritti, sattvic dharma, and then it is more prone to dharma, jnana, vairagya, aishwaryam, and is more often inwardly. So that's how we were trying to understand the role of Vyutthana Sanskars on the Chitta on one hand and Nirodha Sanskars on the Chitta on the other hand. Now most of us, the commoners, are in Vikshipta bhumi. And in Vikshipta bhumi, there is both alternation between Vyutthana Sanskar and Nirodha Sanskar. They alternate. So sometimes the mind is vicious, sometimes the mind is virtuous, sometimes the mind is noble, sometimes the mind is ignoble, sometimes the mind is materialistic, and sometimes the mind is transcendent. So what Patanjali has mentioned in the Sutra Abhibhava Pradurbhava is more a signature condition of the Chitta in the Vikshipta bhumi. And the Abhibhava of Vyutthana Sanskars and Pradurbhava of Nirodha Sanskars means we become exceptionally saintly. We become like godly persons. So sometimes we are godly, sometimes we are demonic. This is how common man's mind is alternating between the two poles: Adharma, Adharma, Jnana, Ajnana, Vairagya, Avairagya, Aishwarya, Anaishwarya. It oscillates between the two polarities. But those exceptional minds which we come across, we say they are sadhus, they are saintly persons, they are sajjana, they are mahanubhava. In such people, the Nirodha Sanskars are in a greater proportion than Vyutthana Sanskars, and opposite is our case. We have plethora of Vyutthana Sanskars and scarcity of Nirodha Sanskars, but of course they are there. Now one who needs to be in Adhyatma and Paramartha, such mind should be speaking Shat Sampattis. The Shat Sampattis are Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati, Jnana, Vairagya and Shanti Samadhan. And these are also called Daivi Sampada. Bhagavad Gita comes very handy to understand Daivi Sampada, Asuri Sampada, and get away from Asuri Sampada and to be in Daivi Sampada. So 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita provides this classification which one should look into. In the 13th chapter, however, Bhagavan Sri Krishna lists out certain qualities which a spiritual seeker must be having. So that is also worth looking into and contemplating over and then developing. So these qualities of spiritual seeker, Adhyatma Sadhaka, are Amanitvam, Adhambhitvam, etc. gunas, which are listed in the 13th chapter. So one can look into the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita I will be quoting the verse which contains the marvelous list. In the 7th verse of 13th chapter, Bhagavan says, Amanitvam Adhambhitvam Ahimsa Kshantirarjavam Acharyopasanam Shaucham Sthiryam Atma Vinigraha. That is absence of pride and arrogance, freedom from hypocrisy, non-violence, forgiveness, straightforwardness, service of preceptors, to be in servitude of Guru Janas, purity of mind and body, and steadfastness and sense control or self-control. So these are the qualities, and these are in plethora when Nirodha Sanskars are in plenitude. So also Indriyartheshu Vairagyam Anahankara Evacha Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. So also dispassion in the senses, dispassion in the mind, dispassion towards the objects of senses, and absence of egoism, and constant revolving in the mind of the pain and evil inherent in the birth, death, old age, and diseases, which are found in all the embodiments. So also, Asattir Anabhishwanga Putradara Grahadishu Nityam cha Samachittatvam Ishtanishta Upatyashu. Absence of attachment and absence of self-identification with son, wife, home, properties, possessions, and constant balance of mind both in favorable and unfavorable or claimant and unclaimant conditions and circumstances. So when the Nirodha Sanskars are rich, when they are in plenitude, these qualities are to be found in the mind. So one will find such qualities in the mind quite naturally and spontaneously when the Nirodha Sanskars are in plenitude. So this is the Guna Sampada, which comes in big way in the Chitta, which is having Nirodha Sanskars in plenitude. So what are these qualities? Amanitvam, Adhambhitvam, Shanti, that is Kshama Buddhi. Amanitvam is not getting caught in honors. Adhambhitvam means no hypocrisy, the straightforwardness of the mind, the straightforwardness of the heart. Then Shraddha Bhakti Yukta Guru Seva, Antarbahya Shuchi, the steadiness of the Antakaranam, Manas and Indriya Nigraha, thirstlessness for objects of senses, Vairagya, Aspruha, Anahankara Vritti, that is egolessness, and defect discernment with respect to Ihavada, Jadavada, the defect discernment in materialism, and fearlessness about one's own embodiment. Otherwise we have a lot of fear about our own body. To be well aware of the defects of embodiment, incarnation, which is with Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi and Dosha. So One must discern the defects in our incarnations when we manifest in the form of body. Then anabhishvanga means detachment to one's own people, one's own kith and kin, one's own wife and husband, and one's own properties, possessions, belongings. And nitya savachittatvam. Nitya, that means constant balance in mind. Ishtanishta conditions, claimant inclaimant conditions, do not vex such a person. And then ananya bhakti in Bhagavan, avyabhichari bhakti, ekanta sevanam, dislike to move and stay with people who are sensual, materialistic, and inclined for spiritual wisdom. So that is how the Nirodha Sanskars manifest, and one's mind is studied with these noble and lofty qualities. And then Vyutthana Sanskars are only in the quantification of trace, and that is necessary so that we can conduct our human life. So that's how the Nirodha Sanskar profused mind is, which is opposite of our mind stuff. In our case, Vyutthana Sanskars are in profusion and Nirodha Sanskars are scanty, which will only help us to go to sleep at night. So, this is how we have to understand Nirodha Sanskars and the Vyutthana Sanskars, and the fact that they are operated like a wheel, like a cycle. So they appear and disappear. There is abhibhava and pradurbhava. So when the Nirodha Sanskars are in plentitude, there is greater circumference of Nirodha Sanskars in the Chitta, under the Chitta rather. And therefore, such Chitta is qualified, capacitated and empowered to go into Samadhi. So, once the Nirodha Sanskars are in plentitude, then there will be a long and serene flow of quiet, sublime, tranquil Chitta. It will be a long, long flow. When they are scanty, then we are deprived of such a flow, because it's just a bubble. It comes and goes. But when it is in plentitude, there can be a flow, and that is called prashanta vahita samskarat. Patanjali mentions, so when the Nirodha Sanskars are very rich, they can create a flow. So, and as we saw during the last session, from Nirodha Sanskars, the mind with a flow of it, flow of prashanta vahita samskars, then comes the samadhi paranama, which is of the nature of sarvarthata, ekagrata, respectively dwindling and blooming, blossoming. So sarvarthata goes on waning and waning and waning, and ekagrata goes on vexing and vexing and vexing. And then such a Chitta is said to be having samadhi paranama. And then of course we came to the last paranama called ekagrata paranama, where there is tulya pratyaya. Like we saw the example of a movie film which is being projected and contains shots of still. Then how do we get it on the screen? So that is how the ekagrata parinam means appearance of samadhi. The point to be noted is that samadhi parinama doesn't give rise to samadhi, but ekagrata parinama is samadhi. It gives, samadhi parinam gives rise, but itself is not samadhi. There has to be one more phase of transformation. So samadhi parinama and samadhi should not be mistaken. It is only parinama for samadhi, and actualization of samadhi is in ekagrata parinama. So Patanjali in the Sutra 3.8, 3.9, 3.10 and 3.11 gives the Chitta Parinama in the yogi's mind. And that is how the yogi gets a samadhi. Now, from that is an interesting kind of deduction, extrapolation that we are able to arrive at as to how is our chitta. Is our chitta without parinama? No, it is also with parinama. So, what one needs to do is just reverse the sutras which Patanjali has mentioned. So when we reverse the sutras, we will get chitta parinamas that happen to us. So the first parinama Patanjali mentions is Nirodha Parinama. And opposite of that is our chitta parinama, which should be called Vyutthana Parinama. So, what is suppressed in Nirodha Sanskar is pumped up, and what is blooming and blossoming in Nirodha Sanskar is suppressed. So, we have to just reverse the order. Vyutthana Nirodha Sanskara yoho avibhava pradurbhavo. So, it would be Nirodha Vyutthana Sanskara yoho abhibhava pradurbhavo. And then Vyutthana samskara anvitaha Vyutthana parinamaha. So in our case, our chitta also gets modified, but that is called Vyutthana Parinama. The mind becomes more and more distracted, more and more monkey mind, more and more fluttering, more and more restless. So that's called Vyutthana Parinama. The second parinama that Patanjali mentions is Samadhi Parinama. Sarvartha Taikagratayoho Kshayodayo. It has to be reversed. So, one objectness or one objectedness of the mind is altered by many objectedness. This is what happens to our minds, and therefore this is called Sarvarthata Parinama. If Patanjali is describing Samadhi Parinama, then in our case it is Sarvarthata Parinama. And in the third phase, if Ekagrata Parinama is mentioned, Anekarthata Parinama is our case. So, if you tabulate, you will be able to comprehend what I was trying to put across. So make a table of two columns. On the left hand side mention the Chitta Parinam of a yogi, and on the right hand side mention the Chitta Parinama of we commoners. So on the left hand side column of yogis Chitta Parinama, jot down Nirodha Parinam, Samadhi Parinam, Ekagrata Parinam as a progression. Escalation from Nirodha Parinam to Samadhi Parinam and escalation from Samadhi Parinam to Ekagrata Parinam. While on the right hand side column, jot down or put down Vyutthana Parinama at the first place. Vyutthana Parinama escalates to Chanchalya Parinama, Avyagra Parinama or Chanchalya Parinama, and that escalates to Sarvarthata Parinama or Anekarthata Parinama. Now when you place them side by side, you will be able to compare how yogi's chitta has parinama and how our chitta has a parinama. So actually Patanjali is mentioning that both he has defined in such a way that you can extrapolate the process of Vyutthana Parinama, Avyagrata Parinama and Anekarthata Parinama, while he is only mentioning Nirodha Parinama, Samadhi Parinama and Ekagrata Parinama. So yogi's mind, when it goes into Samadhi, the process is Nirodha Parinam to Samadhi Parinam to Ekagrata Parinam. So that is called Samadhi appearing. And when the Samadhi is slowly being revoked, the Parinama is reversed from Ekagrata Parinama to Samadhi Parinama to Nirodha Parinama, and then coming out to worldly state. While our Chitta Parinama is from Vyutthana Parinam to Chanchalata Parinam to Anekarthata Parinam. Anekarthata Parinam means monkey mind. And then the process to become human from monkeyness is a reversal of it. Anekarthata Parinam to Chanchalata Parinam to Vyutthana Parinam. When we come reverse, our mind becomes natural, normal and human. So also it should be understood that the left hand side column is for apavarga and the right hand side column is for bhoga. So the Vyutthita Chitta is for bhogarthata, Nirodha Chitta is for apavargarthata. Therefore the two sets of parinamas that we saw will help us understand the apavargarthatva and bhogatva. So that's how these samskars play a role in giving us samadhi. Rather the yogi getting samadhi. So that's why very interesting delineation on psychology of samadhi has appeared. So there are trividha parinamas of chitta. In case of yogi, Nirodha Parinam, Samadhi Parinam, Ekagrata Parinam, to and fro. That is Samadhi appearing, it is Nirodha to Samadhi to Ekagrata. Samadhi revoked, Samadhi ending, it is Ekagrata to Samadhi to Nirodha Parinam. And in our case, it is Vyutthana Parinam, Chanchalata Parinam and Sarvarthata Parinam. And when we become little sane from being monkey, then it is reverse. Sarvarthata paranam to chanchalala paranam to Vyutthana paranam. Now these paranamas are to be understood respectively as dharma paranam, lakshana paranam, avastha paranam. So the first paranama that Patanjali mentions is the dharma paranam in the chitta. Second paranama that he mentions called samadhi paranam is the lakshana paranam. And the third paranama that Patanjali mentions, which is the ekagrata paranam, is the avastha paranam. So these are respectively dharma, lakshana, avastha paranams. Characteristic changes, attributory changes and statary changes. So we must understand these paranamas which Patanjali has mentioned, called chitta paranamas, and identify the dharma, lakshana, avastha paranamas therein. Which is dharma paranam, which is lakshana paranam, which is avastha paranam. Because dharma, lakshana, avastha paranamas are going to happen in entire phenomenal universe. Entire material universe, gross or subtle. Entire prakritic universe, gross or subtle. The three paranamas would be there: dharma, lakshana, avastha. So we will have to understand the three paranamas. So let me just, in a simple words, try to explain these three paranamas called characteristic changes, attributory changes and changes in states. Say when the milk is fermented for the curds to set, the moment it is fermented, the milkness is gone, the curdness has not yet appeared. Milkness is gone at that instant. But the curdness doesn't appear at that instant. It is going to take some hours. And there will be becoming in that substance. And after a while, you will have completely set curds. So, milk fermented means dharma paranam. And then that substance is gradually becoming, and moment by moment, minute after minute, minute after minute, minute after minute, maybe hour after hour, maybe in 3, 4, 5 hours it will be well set. So there is a becoming process that is called lakshana paranama. Attributory changes are taking place for that substance to become curds. Once the curds are become, paranam doesn't stop. Because the paranam will continue from freshness of curds and yogurt to unfreshness of the curds and yogurt, or rottenness of curds and yogurt. It's going to become that way after a couple of hours. And then it will be no longer curds. The curdness is gone because the curds are to be eaten within the span of few hours. Then only it is tasted as curds. But then when it becomes too old, we don't consume it as a curd. So its state has changed. So that is called avastha paranama. So also with respect to pot, we often come across this illustration example. The mrittika is the dharmi, the earth, the earth matter, earthen matter is the material for preparing a pot, earthen pot. Then that soil is weeded out with any stone particles in it, the soft sand is taken away, and then water is mixed, and then there is a lump of clay. That's called mrutpinda. The lump of clay can only become material for a pot to be turned out of it. So the pot is turned out. When the pot is complete, it is wet and therefore it is raw. It cannot be used for any function. You cannot be carrying water in a raw pot. So it is baked. Subsequently it is baked. So when the pot is baked, it becomes tough and hard, and then it can carry water. But then when the pot is ready, it does function as a pot for some days or weeks or months or year, but sometimes it becomes old, and then sometimes it becomes so old that it breaks. There are fragments, there are pieces, chips. So that is the avastha parinama. The potness is gone and the chipness has appeared. That is avastha parinama. So in all these material things that we have in the world, have these three kinds of parinamas taking place. They are called dharma parinam, lakshana parinam, and avastha parinama. No matter is free from such parinamas. Every material thing has these parinamas, characteristic changes, attributary changes, and statary changes or changes in states. No matter is free from these transformations. And therefore Patanjali is going to explain the parinamas in the matter, precisely bhutendriya srushti, bhutendriya creation. And those changes are called dharma, lakshana, avastha parinamas. We have already discussed the chitta parinamas, which are again dharma, lakshana, avastha parinamas, described as Nirodha parinam, samadhi parinam, ekagrata parinam. Similar parinamas are there in matter, in the sense dharma, lakshana, avastha. In the light of dharma parinam, lakshana parinam, avastha parinam. So that is what is going to be appearing after this sutra. So with this we try to understand the psychology of samadhi, and the chitta parinamas are in samadhi for a yogi. And side by side we also understood chitta parinam that takes place in us, namely Vyutthana parinam, chanchalata parinam, and anekarthata parinam. So these are chitta parinamas, which is a marvelous piece of passage that comes in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So with that, we will end this topic. Namaskar all of you.